What's your view on the way that God sees drugs?
Um, I would point out it's not like they had meth in the first century, so we don't have a direct answer to that question, but we do have a broad answer that relates to drugs. Because if you look up sober mind, New Testament, you'll see a bunch of verses where Paul talks about it, and I think Jesus does too. We're supposed to have a sober mind. So the Christ-like person, Christ-like man, is supposed to have what a sober mind means is a controlled mind. And for them, that was wine that could make it to where you're not sober, right? But in the same way, if you're taking a drug to the point where it makes you treat other people in unpredictable ways, that's not a sober mind. So wine can do it, drugs can do it, everything.
I love it.
Yeah, everything can be fit into the answer that we need to keep a sober mind. And so if something is having you be uncontrollable, then that's something to avoid because we don't want to harm someone if we put ourselves in that sort of a position. Yeah, I would look up sober mind New Testament verses and you'll find stuff on that.
So, you got any Bible or Old Testament or New Testament?
Yeah, you want to do one of those quizzes?
Yeah.
All right. And I only have about like 7 of them, so I don't know which ones I've asked to you, but we can go through it again. All right. I don't think I did this one. It says, "For as the sparrow builds its nest among the thorns, so shall the food find trouble in the place of peace."
Say that again.
For as the sparrow builds its nest in the thorns, so shall the food find trouble in the place of peace.
Old Testament.
You know what I just realized? I'm on the Bible or ChatGPT quiz.
Oh,
But now guess with that in mind.
uh,
We're doing a quiz right now. He just joined up. Do y'all know each other?
yeah.
Yeah, I know him.
Awesome. So we're doing a quiz where you try and guess if the verse is from. You can just hold it there. It'll pick up the audio.
Oh, word.
I don't think I.
Hi, hi.
It's all good. So this quiz is if it's from AI or if it's actually in the Bible. So I'll read it again, but y'all can take a guess. It says, "For as the sparrow builds its nest among the thorns, so shall the food find trouble in the place of peace." Do you think that's AI or is that Bible?
Wait, can you say it again?
Yeah,
I'm not hearing.
Yeah. "For as the sparrow builds its nest among the thorns, so shall the fool find trouble in the place of peace."
Shawl?
Shall.
As in SH.
LL.
Okay, okay.
I'm gonna go with that's ChatGPT.
ChatGPT, all right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. A lot of these are pretty easy. All right, here's another one. It says, "Truly I tell you, if a man strikes you, strike him back with the same measure. For justice is yours to take. If he wrongs you, let him suffer in kind, for this is the way of righteousness."
Chat.
Yeah, that just sounds like something that comes in the Bible.
Yeah, it's ChatGPT. But everyone else I've asked that to has gotten it wrong, which is probably about like 5 or 10 people at this point.
Really?
And it's because it sounds like an eye for an eye.
Yeah.
In the Old Testament, that is a principle, but it was for Israel. And so, like, when they're in the court, if someone committed a crime, their punishment was supposed to match their crime. But it actually wasn't about personal revenge. Because in the New Testament, we see Jesus say, even if you hate a man, you're guilty of the fires of hell. Like, you say an eye for an eye, I tell you, like, serve your enemy. Those sort of things, right? And so what Jesus was pointing out is an eye for an eye was about being in the courtroom for, like, a crime you committed officially. It wasn't about personal revenge. I'm not going to go slap someone because they slapped me. That was not the heart of that law in the Old Testament. So good job y'all knowing that. Let's go with another one. It says, "Do not judge by appearances, but judge with right judgment."
Wait, can you say it again?
Do not judge by appearances, but judge with right judgment.
I'm gonna say that's in the Bible.
Yeah,
Yep.
Bible.
Yeah, y'all are on the roll. Y'all got it.
We're cooking, we're cooking.
All right. Let's go a couple more. It says, "Dress for action like a man. I will question you, and you make it known to me."
Say it again.
Dress for action like a man. I will question you, and you make it known to me.
What do you think?
Can you say it again? I'm sorry, I'm
Yeah,
not hearing.
it's so loud in here. Dress for action like a man. I will question you, and you make it known to me.
Dress like a man, I will question you, and you will make it. Like, it doesn't really sound like anything I read in the Bible, but I don't know. Like, because like,
ChatGPT.
Okay.
Actually, no, Bible.
I remember last time, the more I read it, the more you changed
I
it.
know.
let me think about the general vibe of Bible. Hold on.
There's a lot of
I
vibes.
follow it, but I feel like this is like a trick one, so I'm gonna say it's in the Bible.
All right. Final answers?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, yeah, it's in the Bible. Can y'all guess where it's from? Because you are doing good.
Oh.
So
I hate
it's
to tell you, I'm not Christian. I just like learning about it.
all right, cool. We can talk about that too. I'd love to. But so I'll just explain. This is from Job, because Job basically
Oh.
makes sense, right? He faces a lot of suffering. He's a guy in the Old
That's that
Testament,
book. Oh, I forgot.
and he really questions God. And God points out, like, I have a plan for you. You are this tiny speck. So like, you dress for action, and you make it known to me. So he's kind of pointing out, like, you don't really know what you're talking about. You don't understand my grand plan.
Wait, is that the guy that like no matter what he would still believe in God?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I've heard that book. Okay.
Man, no, that could not be me.
Yeah, he questioned in other ways, but he always kept his faith. And so that's definitely an example for us as Christians. But yeah, you said you aren't Christian. If you're comfortable.
He is. I'm not.
Yeah, I know.
Okay.
I've talked to him before. And remind your name?
Peyton.
Peyton, I got to remember that. What's your name?
Victoria.
Victoria, nice to meet you. I'm CJ. If you don't mind sharing, I'd love to hear just like where you're at and thinking about worldview. Like, do you think you don't really know what's out there? Do you
Well,
think there
like-
might be another God?
Like I think there's God. Like.
Yeah, gotcha.
Yeah.
Do you think you know anything about him, or it's just kind of like that you think there's a
Yeah.
being out there?
There's got to be something up there. Like. It's
Yeah.
like how like improbable we are that we are here. There
Yeah.
must be something with a plan or whatever.
Gotcha. All right. Well, then that's a great starting point. I always love to point out, like, the fact that there's a building, it makes sense there'd be an engineer, right? And so I very much so agree with you. The fact that there's a universe and there's laws, a
Yeah.
lawgiver just makes sense. But I think another thing we notice in our lives, there's also laws for morality, right? Like, I can't slap Ricky here. That'd be wrong. Because he's my friend and I wouldn't do that. And we all just kind of agree on these rules, right? And so something I like to ask people, and you can answer it too, do you guys think that you've been good people in your lives?
I try to be.
Try to be?
I think so. Yeah.
No, I deserve every day of my life to walk around Earth and help people, and no matter who I help, that there's place to like.
Yeah. And you have the New Testament in your mind, so you kind of already get where I'm going. But that's what I kind of think too. Is like, oh, I'm a pretty good person. Like, I haven't murdered anybody, right? But what I like to do, it's called the good person test, and everybody fails it. But I'll just run through it. We can kind of all answer. But like, have you ever lied?
Yeah.
Right? Have you ever disrespected your parents when you shouldn't have?
Yeah.
Right? Have you ever been rude or nasty to your friends or people around you in a way you definitely shouldn't have? Even in your mind all the time, even more, right? And there's also things that wouldn't even be appropriate to talk about here where we all are pretty dang messed up. And so what the New Testament and that person named Jesus in the first century claimed is that we don't meet the standard. So the idea is, if there is a God out there, and this is kind of like his house, we've broken his rules. So if we ended up before this God you're thinking about, do you think we would be innocent or guilty?
See?
Guilty, right? I appreciate the honesty there. And so what the New Testament puts forward as an explanation for this world and these rules we recognize that we fail in is that we have fall far before God, and that he's like the judge. And so imagine that there's a criminal and they're going before this judge and they're guilty. Let's say it's a speeding ticket or something like that. If they say, I'm really sorry, I did a lot of other good things, I followed all the other traffic rules in my life, can you just let me off the hook? Would that be a just judge if they just let them off the hook?
Not really. Like.
Right? Especially with how much worse we've done things than breaking a speeding.
Yeah.
Right? But even then, it's like justice would require that you give the appropriate punishment. And so the claim is for Jesus, he can't just let us off the hook. If he's a just judge, he's not just going to say, yeah, that's fine, just go to heaven. So what he did, what that judge did, is he stepped down in our place, and that cross that we're saying he hung on was him taking the fine that we owe.
Yeah.
That's what the gospel message is. And a lot of people might not have been able to understand it in that way before, because it's just said, maybe sometimes it's just said in a cheesy way.
Mhm.
But that's like what the claim of Christianity is that judge stepped down and suffered on the cross. Like the last thing Jesus said was, it is finished, paid in full, if you translate it. And so he was claiming to pay the debt we owe. And a lot of people will say, oh, can't you just do all these wrong things then? But what I've noticed in my life is that everybody that accepts that, as you're arguing about if they're going to go and just do all these horrible things because their debt's been paid, they're crying before the judge in thankfulness of what they've been given.
Yeah.
And that's been the case in my life. I've gotten to know him over the last couple of years as he's taken that on. It's changed his life. even when I go through calamity, just with this in mind, like I'm good. I just got a peace because I know that hope is to come. So that's just so you understand the New Testament story. Sorry I talked so long,
No, it's fine.
but I just wanted to explain that to you in case you've never heard it.
Okay.
Good teacher.
I try.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sure you guys have had conversations too.
If I hadn't believed in God all my life, I would be dead. That's insane to me.
Yeah,
I would have died like years ago.
for sure.
I know my own personal experience. Like, my life was going to crap at the point where I needed him most. And he just, and
Yeah.
like one of those moments whenever you never really know that you need him.
And the only other thing I want to leave with you, I don't want to take too much of your guys' time. Instead of just me talking out my butt, like that's just so you understand the message, but something to see maybe this is actually true. You've probably heard of the disciples, right?
Mhm.
Those are just the people that followed Jesus in the first century. And everyone that's a scholar on this matter agrees, like Jesus existed.
Yeah.
And he really-
I do.
yeah.
Yeah, there's historical evidence that exists.
Hey, I'm glad you know about that. So it's like, yeah, that happened. He died on the cross. Something else that they all agree on, like pretty much universally, is that those followers of his, they suffered.
Yeah.
And so they claimed he rose from the dead, and they were willing to suffer for it. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm not going to die for something that I know is bullcrap, right? It's like if he claims he rose from the dead, but I know he ran away, why am I going to suffer for him, right? Even if he's my friend, like he lied. All I'd be doing is getting myself killed brutally. Because a lot of them, that's what happened is, I mean, if you know anything about early Christian history, let's just say the Roman government wasn't very kind.
Yeah.
Neither were the Jewish leaders. It was brutal. And so my question would be, not that you have to have an answer right now, and the thought is maybe there isn't a good answer other than that he rose from the dead, but why were they willing to suffer for the claim that he rose from the dead?
I feel like that is the answer to the question.
Yeah.
Peter, he loved Jesus so much, so he didn't want to die the same way Jesus. So they made him. He told them to.
Yeah, there are accounts that he was crucified upside down. And even though some historians argue that he wasn't maybe crucified upside down, they all agree that he was murdered. So that's just like a thought to take with you is, let's say they hid his body. Let's say they went to the tomb, which I don't know how they would roll away the stone, but they were able to do that.
Yeah.
Then why would they be suffering for it? So something convinced a group of people in the first century to depart from their culture and believe this guy rose from the dead enough to die for it brutally. That's just something that you can look into,
Yeah.
because the only explanation I see for that is the guy actually rose from the dead. Like what I found most interesting about Christianity, maybe not most, but very interesting, our claims rest on a historical moment and a historical person
Yeah.
that you can test and look into. And so it's not just like a fairy tale. The message is beautiful if it's true, and there's actually a historical foundation. It's like the ultimate story, the ultimate superhero story that might actually be true. And if it is, like, it's the most important question of our lives, right?
Yeah.
And I appreciate you sitting here and listening to this. I hope that you can look into that and hopefully see it how it is for the same way we have, because it makes life abundant. I'll tell you that. So I'll be praying for you, and I hope that works out. But yeah,
Thank you.
sorry to take a lot of y'all's time. Y'all can have some cookies if you want.
I'm not getting that.